Hi, everyone. I'm John Sullivan with 401k Specialist at the Excel 401k 2020 Digital Series. We have another great panel discussion geared up on a very timely topic, which is the fight for financial wellness, how to overcome plan sponsor objections. Financial wellness has all the buzz and is getting all the attention, at least within the industry, but how well is it translated to the general public? And does the CFO, head of HR, or business owner really understand its value? We have experts with us today to help us find out. And they also happen to be top advisor by participant outcome nominees, or TAPOs as we call them. So joining me is Jane Hagen with TriStar Trust, Jeffery Acheson with Advanced Strategies Group, and Larry Deatherage with Retirement Benefits Group. We're also joined by Marta Rodriguez with JP Morgan Asset Management, and we're very proud to partner with JP Morgan Asset Management on the TAPO program. They are doing some amazing things in the area of participant outcomes, and you'll hear more about that on Friday when we announce and celebrate the overall 2020 TAPO recipient. Today's session is interactive, so I want to mention our real-time poll function as well as chat to ask any questions you like, and we'll get to as many as we can. So we have limited time now, and I want to dive right in. And Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What is the most common objection you hear from plan sponsors when attempting to implement an effective financial wellness program?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think it first of all depends on the type of company, and it's going to be different depending on what their demographics or their employee base happen to be. But everything for me falls into threes. So, one of the three is, what is my return on investment if there's some kind of cost attributable to the program? But there's always the time cost involved because you've got to implement it and roll it out. And the concern is they're not going to utilize it. So are we wasting time and money on something that's not going to be effective because it won't be engaged? And I think the third part is, okay, once we roll it out, there can be that initial enthusiasm, but what happens after that? How do you keep the momentum going? And I think with financial wellness, when we focus too much on this big shift from retirement to wellness, then it's kind of a paradigm shift. So one of the areas that we try to help them understand, with all kinds of capital, they've got intellectual capital, they've got financial capital, and they've got human capital. And what are they doing to invest in the improvement of their human capital, and how can that be then converted back into a corporate benefit? Because ultimately, you have employers have two mindsets. One, employees can come and go. I don't really care. It's just how we work. And those that are really focused on being, quote unquote, one of the best places to work in their immediate area. So the one thing I would say, the conversation goes a lot better with an employer who thinks of their human capital as a real asset that they want to take care of, and in turn enhance what their company ROI happens to be because they're getting a better return on the human capital.
Is there a greater awareness overall, though, Jeff, or is there still a steep learning curve on what financial wellness is at this point?
I think it's a little bit of an ambiguous topic at the moment because it means different things and there's different deliveries because nobody's doing it exactly the same way. Is financial wellness around student loan debt and budgeting and cash flow, or is it strictly around education and why you should put more money away for your future? But retirement's kind of lost, and back to my perception of it anyway, its place is a key word. I think it's more around financial independence. Now we get interest, whether it's 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-old. Retirement is this nebulous, faraway land. But if we focus on financial independence and the holistic discussion, everybody gets that about approaching it much more from a comprehensive, holistic basis rather than the buzzword of financial wellness and what does that mean?
Jane, what objections are you dealing with?
Jeff's comments a lot. It really depends on the employer. Sometimes it's time, and sometimes employers just don't want to invest the time into their employees because sometimes they think they don't really want to change their behavior to make their situation better in the future. And so we really come at it as it is education on all topics, not just saying it's wellness, more of education on financial topics. And we get a lot more participants and employers to engage in it. And we really try to stress that, you offer a great benefit here. Make sure that your employees are aware of it. Make sure that they know what you're wanting to do for them. You want them to leave the company someday and really be financially independent, as Jeff echoes. But I would say the biggest objection is time, and letting them come to meetings and learn more is the biggest objection we get from employers. But we really want to work with employers that want to help their employees improve. So I would say we still probably have 90 to 95% of our companies let us come in often enough to move that needle.
Understood. Marta, I want to bring you in for the product provider perspective. What exactly are you seeing from some of the advisors that you work with?
Sure, definitely. As was mentioned with these two individuals, the time definitely is one of the main objections that I hear as when it comes to why delve further into the financial wellness for the employees. Another one definitely is it can be too expensive. It's also often used as a barrier, an objection. I think it's also important to point out, though, just some of the things that you can help to build your case, right? So we can focus on, if it's a matter of financial, maybe we can focus on absenteeism, right? Are there turnovers within the employee base that are worth looking at? Employee job performance, and then looking at retirement readiness scores, like within the plans themselves. Is there a high use of loans or hardship distributions that are being used? In the environment that we're in with the coronavirus, are there coronavirus distributions that are being made? A lot of this can point to underlying problems that can be solved by a solid financial wellness program. And these are quantifiable things that can be put in front of those decision makers to help them move the needle to move forward with the program.
It sounds like a lot what Jeff was mentioning, right? That it can really be endless, get away from you, and defining it is one of the big challenges. Larry, I want to bring you in here, and what are you dealing with? And do you find the same thing? Just trying to get your hands around financial wellness and what it is.
Yeah, I think it's super important. And I think it's a great topic for everybody to be touching on. And in the industry, we're seeing more. Talk to a plan sponsor about what the wellness program is. I think it comes down to the plan size. I think when you're looking at smaller plans, say under 500 participants, I think it's much easier to roll out an effective program. Once you get into larger plan sizes, it's a different conversation. And some of the objections are obviously, as mentioned before by the other panelists, is the costs involved. And then once you spend that cost, is how many people actually use this? So our conversation has been, there's multiple different ways to access wellness. You have the vendors that are doing an unbelievable job. The unfortunate part is that it really takes a participant to go on and actively use that part of the website. And unfortunately, that seems relatively low. We have other vendors that do a wonderful job with larger participant bases where they can do more customized communication, education, and rollouts of the programs. And then for that mid-market or smaller market, there's other programs that will actually do more hands-on with individual training, having an individual person that they can talk to, having a proactive outreach to those participants, and it's much easier to do that. So, in terms of the objections and how to overcome those, it's, in my opinion, is if you're going to spend the money, how do we reach the most people possible where they get the most benefit out of it? And when we get to the ROI conversation, I think we can add a little input on that, on how that looks.
Understood. Before we get to that, I just want to mention the poll question. Which financial wellness objections do you encounter the most from your plan sponsors? We want the audience to weigh in as well as what they're experiencing. But as Larry said, let's move on then to the second topic, which is how can you measure the ROI on financial wellness programs and effectively communicate its value to sponsors? Jeff, let's go to you again.
Larry makes a very, very good point. And back to, as we talk about what you do in each spot, it's going to be entirely different when you get into the mid to mega market than it's going to be in the micro to mid market, because the delivery systems are different. And the bigger it gets, the more it has to be institutionalized in the technology and the record keeping platform. And the more you go down into the micro to mid, the more personalized it can be. So how you measure ROI, one, you're going to have to first, I think, talk to the plan sponsor. What's important to them that they feel like they're getting good ROI. You can think it's really being effective, and they're going to shrug their shoulders or not find value in it. So I think one of the keys is don't assume your ROI assumption is what they're looking for. And in the mid to mega, it's going to be a lot of statistical data back to who used what portions of the website, how many people took action. And a lot of the record keeping platforms are getting very good at creating that kind of feedback loop to measure that. Now, when you get into the micro to mid, I kind of go back to trying to make it go viral. And because you are interacting more with the participants on an individual level, and I know from our perspective, we just try to communicate to them, hey, if you're finding this valuable, it's really important that you let your employer know and shoot them an email or when you say thank you for the program, you appreciate it, you're getting them out of it, because nothing goes farther than an employee thanking an employer for an employee benefit plan, because now they recognize the ROI may not be financial in some ways, but again, you get that subjective analysis of I've done good here and these people are appreciating it. So I want to do more of that. And so back to, again, the mindset of a best places to work. Part of it is how you feel about your employer and whether you feel your employer cares about you or not. And the bigger the company gets, the more it moves away from that and it becomes more of a statistical exercise. But I guess my takeaway is, when you get an employer who agrees to move forward, make sure you understand what they consider to be adequate ROI, or you could be running down the wrong path and find out you're happy and they're not.
Just a point of clarification from one of the attendees. They ask, are you suggesting that a financial wellness program should be an additional cost, or is it a value add under the existing fee structure?
Either way, I would address it saying I think you can package it either way. We have some that you're basically looking at, here is the bare bones of the plan, and then if you want to add financial wellness over and above that, it could be an additional cost. And you also have to be careful how that cost is paid, because there's some ambiguity in or lack of clarity in the regulations about what can be paid for out of plan assets. And once you get beyond the benefit of the retirement plan participant and you start having a explicit cost around other types of planning, we still haven't gotten total clarity from the DOL. Does that meet the regulations?
Understood. Anybody else? Pretty much agree with Jeff? Okay. I'm sorry, Jane, do you just want to talk about effectively communicating the ROI?
Actually, after we do educational meetings, wellness meetings, we track the percentage increases that we receive. We track, like a lot of the record keepers track the how many people are accessing the website, what they're doing. We send out emails continuously to our participants, just giving them updates on the market or just giving them wellness topics and so forth. So we track the open rate of those, the click-through rate, and then we also go back to the plan sponsor after those employee educational meetings and report our increases and the attendance, and we like to see those going up every single year. But then we also bring those topics up when we do the investment meetings, because again, it's showing our value of what we're doing with the participants. We track phone calls that come into our office as far as from each company, and then we, again, reiterate that back to the plan sponsor. We want our participants to reach out to us for all kinds of financial topics. Even if it's something we don't do, at least we can point them in the right direction. And we work more in the, I would say, the micro to mid-market. So we don't have the mega larger plans. So we're kind of in constant contact with our plan sponsors, and we have really great relationships. And I think because of the education and so forth, we have probably over a 99% client retention ratio on the retirement side.
That's great. Marta, love to hear from the product provider there.
Yes, when it comes to how to measure the ROI, I think it's important, like Jeff was mentioning, to understand what exactly is the goal we're trying to achieve. So that requires for each individual company understanding, being on the same page as to what goals that they're trying to achieve within their financial wellness program, and then be able to assess that down the road. Because if you're not on the same page, you do not know what the problem is, you can't really solve for it. And also the satisfaction rates won't be there unless you're all on the same page. So understanding what that is, that can also come via way of surveys that are done. Sometimes people do surveys with the employees to understand what the needs are, and that, and then of course the follow up with that to see if those goals were actually met as well. So that definitely is what I'm hearing out there as far as how to measure that ROI. And of course, the importance is to effectively communicate the benefits to the actual plan participants as to what the financial wellness program is trying to do for them.
Larry, I'm always coming to you last, but I know you don't mind because we're
That's all good. Yeah, so we've after doing this for 30 years and doing one-on-ones and really focusing on the participant ever since we really started our firm, I think we've kind of experienced all the pitfalls that everybody else does. The one-on-ones are awesome, but even in smaller firms, you're talking maybe 50% of the participants will come and meet with you, and then after years 2 and 3, a lot of those are repeat individuals, and so as effective as it is with the smaller accounts, with the larger accounts, we kind of stepped back and said, okay, for that return on investment, how do we get something for every single participant in that company that they can utilize? And so there's technology out there now where what we've done, especially with the larger plans, is we'll provide a retirement readiness report, but it goes beyond just retirement readiness. It goes to every single person in the company, whether they're participating or not, 2 separate reports. If you're retired, you get one. But on that report, it can be customized at the plan and the participant level. And it also will give 321 participant advice. And so what we do is basically do a wraparound report around whatever financial wellness program we might be using, including the vendors. And on that report, it will promote the actual wellness program. So at a minimum, every single person in the company is getting something of value. And 2, we're constantly going out and encouraging them to use the wellness programs. So that's what we've kind of done, and that's how we're kind of approaching all markets now. There's also a digital technology that we're coming out with for plans that can't quite afford the full reports that are mailed to individuals. So it's more of a technology play, which I don't like as much because you don't get as much of the participants going out and actually grabbing those reports versus sending them to us. So, I believe that it helps with the ROI and the conversation with the plan sponsors, that they're getting a little more for their value. And if participants are paying for it, everybody gets something for the fee that they're paying.
Got it. Just a point of clarification from one attendee. It says, do you see the financial wellness program as part of the retirement plan only or part of a broader wellness strategy? Does anybody want to take that? Anyone? Jeff?
Yeah, well, I go back to again, I think you have to look at what the employer looks at it. So let's put it in levels, if you will. There's a certain rudimentary aspect of financial wellness that you have to embrace, or you're never going to be able to save a dime toward retirement. There's another enhanced level of financial wellness, which is tracking more toward a holistic approach and really trying to achieve financial independence, looking at your total picture from there. So my feeling would be the rudimentary level should be part of everyone's retirement plan, because there's certain baseline things you just have to do. And then to the degree you enhance it, back when Jane mentioned, Larry mentioned, and so on, is where do you take it from there? Then it depends how far you want to go, what's your demographics, what's your employer mindset. So I think at a base level, it's everywhere, and it's just a matter of how far you ratchet it up from there.
Great, wonderful. Moving on to the third topic. What are the key elements and must-haves? All right. Yep. What are the key elements and the must-haves Sorry, I'm getting some feedback there, but of an effective financial wellness program, can you provide any real world examples? And Marta, I'm going to.
Great, thank you, John. So when it comes to key must-haves for an effective financial wellness program, I know this was reiterated a little bit prior, but at first, you need to first figure out a needs assessment. You can't solve for a problem unless you know what it is, and this is different for different companies that are out there. And then it comes to creating the specific goals around what you're trying to achieve, and then it also revolves around performance assessments and developing a timeline for execution. And of course, when it comes to the needs assessment, as I mentioned previously, there have been some companies that are really good about sending out surveys to.
Nope, I think did you freeze up on us? I think she might have. Okay, does somebody else want to take it?
I'll jump back in here. I guess the two things for me, the key elements on the must-have. First, it starts with the employer, and I've said a couple of times, the mindset that human capital is important to them, because if they're communicating to their employees / participants that you're important, this is important, the engagement level is significantly different than if the employer is silent to the topic or ambivalent. Then number two, I think there's got to, no matter what program you're using, there's got to be actionable things that come out of it. And as whether it's Jane or Larry have talked about, education for the pure availability of education's never been very effective for whatever reason. People just are not proactive, nor do they like to read when it's all said and done. So there has to be a way to trigger and track actionable items. And then I think lastly, that's like anything else, we're changing behavior. So whatever you're doing, you can't expect them to come. You've got to have constant interaction and touch points and moving it and try to create almost a viral peer pressure type environment that everybody's talking about using it or not using it. And so again, starts at the top down, but you also have to have that groundswell from the bottom up where everybody knows about the program and feels it's important, and then people start to feel like they're missing out on something if they don't utilize it.
Understood. Jane?
Plan sponsor engagement right off the top. And for participants, they need to be able to come to the meetings to learn about the programs and to increase their education from year to year. And our plan sponsors, again, because I'm working more in the smaller market, are willing to do that. And they see how the participants are being engaged, how their balances are growing, and retirees that are leaving with a comfortable balance and are able to sustain a good lifestyle after. So it just encourages them more to attend and to learn. We definitely have to have plan sponsor engagement. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of our plan sponsors actually, set up the meetings and really, some of them make them mandatory, which is great. And we really encourage that. So number one is plan sponsor engagement.
Understood. Marta, I think we have you back here, so I want to let you finish your point. Can you hear us okay?
Perfect. Yes. Thank you. A lot of it was already said. I do appreciate the opportunity. Beyond having the goals already played out, we did want to mention that having a range of topics is important, but also considering who the audience is and having topics that are, if it's too general in nature, you can also have low participation and poor results. So being able to specifically tailor communications around, for instance, age-based topics or income level, life stage and goals is also important. So for instance, maybe focusing on student loan consolidation amongst the younger folks, or maybe looking at health and life insurance amongst those folks who are starting families and Social Security as they're getting older. So being able to really tailor the communications and the different topics, I think is important to be able to effectively engage the employees. And then, of course, the important thing is also, as was mentioned by other folks, is to be able to promote the heck out of these programs, not only initially when a financial wellness program gets rolled out, but as part of like an annual basis, as part of like when people go and do, people sign up and review their health and health benefits for the next year, it's important to also hit home any new features or anything new in the financial wellness programs that are worth mentioning to make sure it stays front and center for the employees.
Great. Larry?
Marta just hit on almost everything I was going to touch on, which is you got to customize it, whether it's at the plan level or participant level, as much as you can possibly do that. At the plan level, if they can go on to their wellness site and all of their other benefits are there, their health benefits, everything that they can click into and through, I think super important. Having interpersonal conversations with actual people and not just having links and technology. And for an example like that is there's a lot of people that do CFP desks or a call desk or whatever that might be. But if you can actually say you're going to call Ed or John, and this is your person that you can talk to, over time, I think you get a much better response from those individuals. And then the communication of the plan, like Marta said, and a good example of that, and probably the most is kind of odd, but the most effective piece of communication we had with a pretty large plan was, they call it the porcelain press. And we, around the committee, we were joking, saying, get them while they're sitting, right? So there's big communications in the bathrooms, in the stalls. And when we did a benefit fair, it's unbelievable how many people came up and we said, do you know about the program? They said yes, and we asked them how. And if you think about it, at least once a day or so, somebody's going to see that communication. So that's been a great success.
That's been great. That's for sure.
Yeah, the way you communicate it, I think, is super important. And like Jeff said, is staying on that and staying in front of them.
Understood. Great. Moving on to the fourth topic. What one thing would the other panelists and attendees practice? It could be anything, not necessarily financial wellness related. Jane, I know you wanted to lead off with this question, and unfortunately we're having some problems with your audio. So I'm going to make it up to you here. I can't really hear you. So the great thing about get your points across there. Jeff, can I start with you?
Sure. So I guess what people might be most surprised with, or maybe not, depending on how well they might know me and my perspective, but how diversified our revenue streams are, because we truly embrace a multidisciplinary business model. So non-qualified, qualified, wealth management, those kind, and even our insurance activities are as equally as important to us as what we're doing in the retirement plan space. And frankly, on a go-forward basis, probably one of the things I am the most excited about is subscription-based financial planning delivered in a digital environment, because then I think all the geographic boundaries are eliminated, and it can be in concert, and Larry referenced it a little bit, with a plan sponsor, or it can just be in the retail market. So I think on the long run of this, just given the evolution of what we've all learned during COVID and how employees very much can embrace a digital environment, I think big things are going to happen within and in and outside the industry in that digital virtual environment around subscription-based financial planning.
Exciting times, no doubt about it. Marta, I think we know a lot about JP Morgan, but you can do anything about the firm or yourself. Just have some fun with it.
Well, I've been with JP Morgan now for close to 10 years and do very much appreciate the opportunity to work with the financial advisors that have shared with me a lot of their success that they're having around topics such as financial wellness. And it's good to hear just the different aspects of what they're doing to be able to increase participant outcomes for folks. And so it's encouraging. And we do a number of surveys here at JP Morgan on a regular basis, including plan sponsor surveys and plan participant surveys, and hearing it from both ends, the need and want from employees for further education and guidance on maybe not pushing necessarily, you should default automatically into XYZ, but they really are looking for guidance as to what they should be doing. How much should I be putting away? I need help with XYZ. So being able to acknowledge the situation, the issues, and being able to come up with solutions with plan sponsors and with advisors coming with those solutions, it's great to see that. So for those who aren't familiar with our surveys and results, be more than happy to share that with you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll take surveys and survey results all day long. So that's great. Larry, we have you played clean the entire session. So why change now? So we'll have you close it out. Go ahead.
Hopefully so I'll just take a little different spin on this. Is when I was young and first in the business, we had this mid-level exec from Disney, just a mid-level guy, and I took him to lunch on a Friday, and I was all buttoned up. I had my tie on, my suit, and he was dressed pretty cash. We live in San Diego, so it's normally pretty hot, so I was probably sweating a little. And he looked over at me and he goes, Larry, he goes, the only people that want to take money from me wear a tie. And that kind of stuck with me ever since I've been in this business, to communicate with people the way they feel comfortable. And I think if anybody knows our firm and has been in our office, flip-flops and shorts are the norm here in our office, and it hasn't cut down productivity at all. I think it's actually increased productivity. And it's also gone down to the fact where some of our wholesalers now come in flip-flop and shorts when they're visiting our office. So it's just a little bit different here in San Diego, I think, but it's worked for us.
And here I thought you were just lazy, but no, there's a method to the madness. So that's great.
There might be some of that too.
Yeah, right. Wonderful. Well, we are at time, and Jane, I want to sincerely apologize to you. Unfortunately, we had some audio problems there, but we'll make sure that we get your story out in a different medium. But this has been fantastic, guys. Exactly what we're looking for. So thank you again for taking your time and sharing your expertise. I want to remind our attendees that we'll be back here again tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern for another session. And then on Friday at 3:30 Eastern, we have, of course, our big taco celebration with Anthony Scaramucci as a special guest, talking about what's coming up with the upcoming election and some of the regulation that's affecting the industry. So until then, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.